Hello everyone, I'm your host Syeda Zehra and you are watching an interview series by South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. Today we have such an amazing speaker, Dr. Shamsul Islam. He taught political science at University of Delhi. As an author, columnist and dramatist, he has been writing against religion's intolerance and the persecutions of women, Dalit and minorities. He is known globally for the fundamental research work on the rise of nationalism and its development around the world. He belongs from India, so let's welcome him. Thank you for your time, sir. How are you? Let's start with the questions. And my first question is Dr. Shamsul Islam, let's talk about the topic of religious nationalism as most of your research has been on the topic. What is religious nationalism and how does it manifest itself in the society? Moreover, do you think that the religious nationalism has somehow become a global threat to the democracy?
We should try to understand that. Whatever is, I think, is that, for instance, we have Zehra anchoring this program, Madam Zehra. Ab Zehra is a lady. Zehra is a researcher. Zehra's mother tongue is Urdu, English, or any other language. Zehra belongs to a particular region, her regional identity. Then her cultural identity, she may be a Punjabi, she may be a non-Punjabi, she may be a Sindhi or something, and she also has a religion. And so far as religion is concerned, Zehra may not have final choice about the religion. We are born into a family in a religion. That religion we inherit, right?
Yes.
So when we talk of religious nationalism, what we argue very faultily that this is your religious identity which determines your political identity. Your field of work, your gender, your geographical situation, right? Yes. Your hobbies, they do not matter. So you are Zehra, and Zehra is in Arabic name, and Arabic name of Zehra means beautiful. So, so Arabic is also Islamic language. So she's a Muslim, and her nationality would be Islamic or Muslim. So, you know, in our subcontinental context, it would not be Islamic nationality; it would be Muslim nationality. There's a very very strange kind of thing which we never discuss. Anyway, but you know, our identity can be explained in many respects. But when you rely only on religious identity, that is religious nationalism, right? And unfortunately, a thing which we bother least is that those people who are the flag bearers of religious nationalism, all of them, you know, competing religious nationalisms, they keep on shouting from housetops that theirs is the oldest one, there is the best one, there is the primordial one. Even civilization started with their religious identity. For instance, in our country, Hindutva. In our country, Hindutva, they will always say that when दुनिया में कोई पैदा ही नहीं हुआ था जब सारे लोग चौपाए थे, 4 lakh थे, so our rishis and munis, our great seers, they were ruling the whole country and teaching civilization to the world. So that is the claim, and claim is also that is also claimed from the religious nationalist flag bearers that there is the best one. But let me also share the fact with you that the word nation is a very modern construct. Word nation, you will be surprised if I share Zehra ji, the fact that the first time the word nation or nationality was used in the Royal Spanish Academy, in the dictionary of the Royal Spanish Academy, in 1884 edition of the dictionary. Oxford Dictionary used it in 1908 edition. It's so recent, right? and one of the great, not a progressive one, a Tory, a conservative in Britain, when this was rising, nationalism, the concept of nationalism, the idea of nationalism was rising, he said, the patriotism connected with nationalism is the last refuge of the scoundrels. Right? So that's important to understand. So nationalism, which is quite urgent, it was not a natural phenomenon. It was a modern construct, right? And this nationalism was constructed using three things, and for that we got to remember Ernest Renan, Lasky, and others who are the pioneers on the study of nationalism. Ernest Renan, all those people who are interested in this topic, they must read his writings. 1823 to 1892. He said that getting its history wrong is part of being a nation. What happens? That traditions which appear or claim to be old are often quite recent in origin and sometimes invented. Yani the traditions of nationalists, forget about religious nationalism. First, we are talking of nationalism. And in fact, religious nationalism would be a pimple grown upon an ulcer. हमारे यहाँ, हमारे सब कॉन्टिनेंट में एक प्रोवर्ब होता है, करेला और करेला नीम चढ़ा. यानी नेशनलिज्म अगर करेला है तो रिलीजियस नेशनलिज्म नीम चढ़ा करेला है. उसको अंग्रेजी जो मैंने ढूंढा है वो है अ पिंपल विच ग्रोज अपॉन एन अल्सर. राइट? तो हम पहले वी आर ट्राइंग टू रियलाइज व्हाट नेशन इज एंड हाउ ओल्ड इट इज. इट इज नॉट प्राइमोर्डियल, it is not ancient, it is not even medieval. It is of very recent origin, and as I explained, Spanish dictionary and Oxford dictionary, they use it. And then Renan Lasky said, human civilization was witnessing a world of competing nation states, each of which was a law into itself and was reproducing a civilization incapable of survival. In fact, Lasky said it in the beginning of the 20th century, and what is happening in last 30, 40, 50 years, we can say that he correctly prophesied, Harold J. Lasky. And another aspect of nation building or the idea of nation is that it creates myths. It creates myths that, and myth like that we had a golden period. We ruled the world. And whenever they are asked that how do you say that the nation is great, they will say, our nation was the first one. When people were walking, when the animals were on 4 feet, we were on 2 feet ruling the world. जब 4 पैरों पर सारी दुनिया थी यानी जानवर थी, तो हम जो थे उस वक्त इंसान थे और सारी दुनिया पर हम राज कर रहे थे. इस वक्त फॉर इंस्टेंस सावरकर एंड गोलवलकर ऑफ हिंदुत्व वुड से, right? Or myth is very important aspect of that. For instance, in India we can see that Hinduism is the Hindutva is Hindu nationalism. What is Hindutva? Hindutva is Hindu nationalism. They would argue that ours is the first, the noblest religion, and we rule the world. And now we had forgotten for few centuries about this greatness, and it is coming back, and then they create myth. They will create myth about goddess, about temples, about buildings, about dresses and other things. And mind this, Zehra ji, that even those people who talk of Muslim nationalism, not Islamic nationalism, they also invent myths. Like, for instance, Muslim League, when they demanded partition, they said Muslims speak Urdu. Right? We want Pakistan in the name of Urdu. Urdu was a language which developed Khadi Boli. That was the Khadi Boli that developed 200 years back. But they identified Muslims of India who were here till 13 years, 1300 साल से जो है उनको हमने कहा कि इनकी भाषा तो मुसलमानों की भाषा उर्दू होती है. और ये अलग से एक नेशन है, और अलग से एक नेशन है. आप important thing is that if Muslims are a separate nation, then why we have more than 40 Muslim nations? There should have been only one nation. Even Prophet Muhammad did not talk of one nation. Even during his times, there were many countries which were Muslims. So that's a debatable point. But myth creation is the important thing, and to say that our golden period was there. And when we come to religious nationalism, that is, as I explained, कि करेला और वो करेला नीम चढ़ा, कि एक तो अपने आप में कितना फॉल्सी है, कितना फॉल्सिफाइड है होल नैरेटिव, एंड देन यू से दैट रिलीजन डिटरमिन्स योर आइडेंटिटी. सो वो और ज्यादा दैट इज अ मोर टॉक्सिक काइंड ऑफ थिंग. बट आई थिंक वी मस्ट कम बैक टू द सबकॉन्टिनेंट.
Very insightful, I must say. So the next question is, you have also written a great deal about the War of Independence and mostly how Hindus, Muslim and Sikhs and other fought side by side against the colonial occupiers. However, the divide and rule methodology of colonial masters thereupon become quite effective. Dividing the colonial subject amongst religion lines. However, do you think that the load of the communal divide in the India can only be put on colonial masters?
What happens? India, where about 900 century, Muslims arrived as rulers, and Sindh was captured by them, and then a kind of kingdoms or ruling families started, which belonged to Muslim religion, right? So we many times we wrongly describe those as Islamic rules. These were ruled by Muslim families with Muslim names. They believed in Islam. And they ruled for till 1757. That was Plassey war, and Britishers captured this power, right? So what happens that in these almost 1,000 years, or more than 1,000 years, effectively, Muslim family name with Muslim families rule India effectively about 500 to 600 years, right? So what happens that 1857, a great war of independence takes place in India. That is the time when Muslim rule it is ended. It's no more there. Britishers had captured power, and War of Independence of 1857. We call it 1857, but it continued till 1859, very effectively, very fiercely. So 1859 तक ये चलती रही, और उसमें अंग्रेजों के खिलाफ हुआ. It covered whole of India. And at that time also, Muslims population did not exceed more than 20%. Hindus remained 80%. And these were 80% Hindus who also revolted against the Britishers, against the British rules. So I'll give you one example. 11th May 1857, the revolutionary forces which arrived from Meerut, which is about 45 miles from Delhi, they arrive here 11th before the Red Fort. They are 80% Hindus carrying arms, right? And they force a Mughal king who did not want to rule, whose rule had been confined only to Diwan-e-Khas, his own palace in the Red Fort. These 80% Hindu armed people, they force Mughal Shahnshah, who has a Muslim name, who is a Muslim, to become real ruler of India. What does that show? that shows that at that time Hindu-Muslim issue was not there. Hindu-Muslim issues were not there, and we do not have time, I think, to refer to hundreds of those documents of the period in which Britishers are telling that this was a revolt for the restoration of Mughal king, a Muslim one, by the Hindus and Muslims together. Let me just share one or two narratives of the British commanders who defeated 1857. Howard Russell was a war correspondent sent by the Times London to cover the war. What is he saying from the Lucknow battleground? I'll read that. Zehra, will it be okay to read this?
Yes, of course, sir.
Here we had not only a servile war and a sort of jacquerie combined. This jacquerie combined was an insurrection of peasants against the nobility in northeastern France in 1358, which was ruthlessly suppressed. But we had a war of religion, a war of race, and a war of revenge, of hope, of some national promotings to shake off the yoke of a stranger and to re-establish the full power of native chiefs and the full sway of native religions. Russell is saying that these were all had combined. It was a racial war, it was a religious war, right? Religious war not between Muslims and Hindus, all religions on one side, Indian religions against the British. Then another major commander who played very important role in defeating Rani Jhansi also, Thomas Lowe. Just read his words, his autobiography published in 1858. The infanticide Rajput, the bigoted Brahmin, the fanatic Musalman, and the luxury-loving Maratha, the cow killer and the cow worshipper, the pig hater and the pig eater, the crier of Allah is God and Muhammad, his prophet, and the mumbler of the mysteries of Rama, they all joined together in the cause. What we are seeing that Muslim rule has got over, Britishers have captured, but Indians have revolted. 80% of them are Hindus, and those are also working for the restoration of Mughal Empire. What does that mean? That Hindu-Muslim, in that pre-modern times, Hindu-Muslim was not an issue. If Hindu-Muslim would have been an issue, then what these 80% armed carriers, rebel forces would have said, okay, very good, Britishers have removed Mughal. Now we will appoint Nanaji or Rani Lakshmi Bai or Tatia Tope as the king, Hindu king of India. They did not do it. They forced Mughal king to become a real ruler. And I should also read the Tarana, 1857 का तराना जो 13 मई को दिल्ली के एक अखबार में छप गया. और Zehra ji, I would like to read the original Urdu one. You know, this is the Urdu which was also sung by 80% Hindu rebel armies, and we later on started saying that Urdu is a language of Muslims. Of course, it was penned by Azimullah Khan, who was one of the strategists of the rebel forces, right? It is published on 13th May in Payame Azadi in a paper of Delhi. हम हैं इसके मालिक हिंदुस्तान हमारा, पाक वतन है कौम का जन्नत से भी प्यारा. ये हमारी मिल्कियत हिंदुस्तान हमारा, इसकी रूहानियत से रोशन है जग सारा. कितना कदीम कितना नईम सब दुनिया से न्यारा, करती है जरखेज जिसे गंगो जमन की धारा. I hope you understand this.
Yes.
ऊपर बर्फीला पर्वत पहरेदार हमारा, नीचे साहिल पर बसता सागर का नक्कारा. इसकी खाने, हम हिंदी में खदान बोलते हैं इसको, माइंस. इसकी खाने उगल नहीं सोना हीरा पारा, इसकी शानो शौकत का दुनिया में जयकारा. आया फिरंगी दूर से ऐसा मंतर मारा, लूटा दोनों हाथों से प्यारा वतन हमारा. आज शहीदों ने तुमको अहले वतन ललकारा, तोड़ो गुलामी की जंजीरें बरसाओ अंगारा. And imagine these words which were printed on 13th May 1857. हिंदू मुसलमान सिख हमारा भाई भाई प्यारा, ये है आजादी का झंडा, इसे सलाम हमारा. Do I need to translate it into English? I don't think I need to do it.
No,
I,
no, no.
I, I need to do it, right?
Yes,
This song of Hindu, Muslim, Sikh unity is being sung. That is the basis, that was the fundamental character of the 1857 War of Independence, right? And there is not a corner of India, not a place in India where Hindu Muslims stood together, did not shed their blood. Thousands and thousands and thousands. I've collected, I spent 10 years in collecting original documents of 1857 from different parts of the world. And my life will end if I keep on narrating the incidents, places and incidents of the how Muslims and Hindus together and Sikhs together fought. The revolutionary army had always 2 Muslim commander-in-chiefs, 5 Hindu commander-in-chiefs. Hazrat Mahal, Awadh queen, her army had 5 Hindu commanders, 3 Muslim commanders. Rani Jhansi, her chief of artillery was a Hindu. Her chief or infantry was a Muslim Pathan. Artillery a Hindu Pathan, a Muslim Pathan. So that kind of it was there. But we lost it. We lost it, and miserably we lost it. We lost it because a large number of Hindu and Muslim princes, they sided with the Britishers. The higher caste, the high caste, both of Hindus and Muslims, they sided with the Britishers. About Delhi battle, I know that Maulana Rajab Ali, Mirza Ehsan Baksh or Munshi Jeevan Lal, they were the touts, they were the agents of Britishers, belonged to high caste, Muslim and Hindu high caste, and they betrayed Delhi, and they saw to this that Britishers enter through different 6 to 7 gates of Delhi. And capture of Delhi on 19 September 1857 turned the tide against the revolutionaries. So what happens when we lose it? So internal bickerings start. It did not happen only in India. It happened many times. Even in families, when families, united families, when they face some crisis, internal bickerings started and they started blaming each other. Here also what happened, that ruling elite of Hindus started saying that Muslims started this, and Muslim elite started saying that Hindus started this. And a kind of two-nation theory started. It is the beginning of the two-nation. What is the two-nation? In the beginning, two-nation was that it is a nation of Hindus. It is a nation of Hindus. It is an Aryan nation, and it is started by the high caste Hindu gentry of Bengal. They said that it's an Aryan. First time in history it is being said that India is a land of Aryans. Aryans are Brahmins, and this land belongs to them. Then also Hindu nationalists like Parmanand, Bhai Parmanand, Lala Lajpat Rai, even Lala Hardyal, Agadrait, they started saying that Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, they allied with Sir Syed and said that Muslims or Hindus are two nations. But we should not forget one thing, that there was a stage that they said that India is occupied by two nations, Hindus and Muslims, right? But they were not saying yet that Hindus and Muslims cannot stay together. They were saying that we are two different nations. But a time comes in the beginning of 20th century, when revolutionary movement, political movement against British rule is starting 20th century, which is called freedom struggle freedom struggle of the Indian people against the British rule. So, when this started, Britishers needed their agents, that they would not let Muslims and Hindus unite. So what they started saying, that they started helping Muslim organizations and Hindu organizations. You should not be surprised if I tell you that Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha are almost formed at the same time, right? And they are saying that India is not a nation, so we will not fight together against the Muslims. We want to make it a Hindu nation. So if you are fighting for a Hindu nation, then we will join the freedom struggle. And then there are Muslim nationalists. They will say that we will not join the freedom struggle, because if we get freedom, then Hindu majority will rule and Hindu rule will come. So that kind of beginning started. And now two nation comes, that Hindus, Muslims cannot live together. And unfortunately, the first intellectuals who said that Muslims cannot stay in India were Hindu nationalists. Bhai Parmanand, Lala Lajpat Rai, Hardyal, they said Muslims cannot stay in India. They should be sent to Afghanistan or converted to Hinduism. Savarkar, who is the father of Hindutva, he said that India is two nations, antagonistic nations, they must separate. And I will conclude this two-nation theory here by saying, unfortunately, Muslim League adopted what Hindu nationalists had been demanding, that Muslims should be thrown out. Muslims should not be part of India. I say it with full responsibility that Muslim League decided to adopt the path which Hindu nationalists were suggesting for Muslims, that they should be thrown out. Now they adopted it as their own project.
Informative response. Thank you so much. Yeah, so the next question is, do you agree the misuse of religion in the religious nationalism is solely responsible for the conflict, violence and societal collapse? Or there's any other prime factors that lead to these outcomes?
Zehra ji, that document is, and I'll take you back to your country and refer to a person who was a bishop of Faisalabad, Bishop John Joseph. Bishop John Joseph quite hurt and disappointed by the attacks and persecution of Christians. He committed suicide at Sahiwal on May 6, 1998. But before doing that, he wrote a letter to his friends, and I was honored to be his friend, but he committed suicide on May 6, 1998. And he says, what religious nationalism does, he put it into four heads. And the four heads were, number one, I'm quoting from his letter which he wrote to all his friends who were worried about the consequences of the religious nationalism. Number one, when religious nationalism is there in any country, the government closes its eyes to schools where male children are taken from age 5 and are trained in religious hatred and handling weapons. Unfortunately, that happened in the Indian subcontinent. Number two, the first victims of the fundamentalist parties are the religious minorities. They direct their full wrath on these minorities and depict them as dangerous to society and country. The second victims are women. They believe women are inferior to man, root of evil, and weak and stupid. The third victims are those people who have secular, liberal, and enlightened outlook, especially the intellectuals and human rights activists. That is what is happening in my country. That is what is happening in subcontinent. Number 3, under the fundamentalist influence, publication of religious books increases and secular literature rapidly decreases. It also greatly affects music, painting, sculpture, and dancing, and also as a whole, his society loses its glamour and violence, and dullness reigns supreme. And last one, we close our eyes and think that the bloodthirsty cult of religious violence will go away by itself. No, each one of us has to get involved and play our role. Our answer to violence must be interdenominational and interreligious. So we have an exposure of what happens in a religious nationalist regime, which India is turning to be one. They officially might not have declared India into a Hindu Rashtra, but the Hindutva rulers, cadres of RSS who rule India, Modi or Amit Shah, they have declared openly that they are Hindu nationalists. They are Hindu nationalists and they are members of RSS. And RSS says that we will convert Indian democracy, Indian democratic polity into a Hindu Rashtra. That is what their oath is. That is what their prayer every day in their shakha, in their drill of RSS drill is there. But I will revert back to Bishop John Joseph. You know, about anywhere about religious nationalist regimes. Though he was from Pakistan, but we have intellectuals here also who are saying the same thing which Professor Bishop John Joseph said. That first thing what happens, that small children, 5 years age, all are recruited in religious schools, Hindu religious school, Muslim religious schools, right? And they are taught what they are taught. They are not taught science. They are not taught grammar, mathematics. What they are taught that Muslims or Hindus are special. They are superior than others. And so ready-made cadre, by the time they grow, they have turned into hate mongers. That in India, I'm seeing closely. That we have seen in Pakistan and Bangladesh also.
I really agreed with you, and thank you for the answer. And move to the next question. Women from the minority community often become a target of double discrimination and violence, of course. Can you please shed some light on why we see intense gender-based violence in the cases of violence against the minorities?
The other thing is that women are affected. The women, not only of minority women, majority women are also affected.
So yes, the next question is, women from minority community often become a target of double discrimination and violence. Can you please shed some light why we see the intense gender-based violence cases against the minority?
Right. I'll just add one thing here, that in a religious nationalist, which is in fact a fascist state, only minority women do not suffer. Majority women also suffer. I'll present before you from horse's mouth, though they are donkeys. I believe these people who defend religious nationalist states, I do not know where they have learned that kind of wisdom. I have collected popular religious literature being circulated about Hindu women and Muslim women in the subcontinent. I have collected hundreds of small booklets in Urdu, Hindi, Bengali, right? I am first reading what Hindu nationalists who want to convert India into a Hindu Rashtra, what is their agenda about Hindu women? About Muslim women, they are doing so many things, but what is their Hindu women? The biggest publication house of Hindu literature is Gita Press in Gorakhpur. This is Gita Press, right? Gita Press had more than 40 books, small booklets in almost all languages of India, and English, and NRIs, non-resident Indians, buy these books in hundreds. They take this to America, Australia, New Zealand. RSS cadres who are residing outside India, though they are citizens of Australia, America, England, France, Germany, but they take these books. And I'll read from some of these books. One book, How to Lead a Household Life, by Swami Ram Sukdas. It is a question answer form. What should women do? What should the wife do if her husband beats her and troubles her? This is a book written by one of the great seers of Hinduism, Swami Ram Sukdas. The wife should think that she is paying her debt of her previous life, and thus her sins are being destroyed and she is becoming pure. Swami Ram Sukdas is saying that if a Hindu husband beats her Hindu wife, then she should bear it patiently, because by bearing it patiently, she is paying the debt of her past sins. In Hinduism, you are reborn. Right, Zehra ji?
Ji, sir.
Am I making some sense?
Yes, of course you are.
And mind this is Hindu seer writing for Hindu woman. When her parents come to know this, they can take her to their own house because they have not given their daughter to face this sort of bad behavior. But Swami Ram Sukdas Hindutva wisdom does not end here. Yes. If her parents do not take her back to their house, learned Swamiji's pious advices, I quote, under such circumstances, she should reap the fruit of her past actions. She should patiently bear the beatings of her husband with patience. Hindu wife should bear the beatings with patience of a Hindu husband, because that is according to these Hindu nationalists, Hindu way of life. And if a Hindu woman is raped, then what should she do? Swamiji says, as far as possible, it is better for women rape victim to keep mum. If her husband also comes to know it, he too should keep mum. It is profitable for both of them to keep quiet. If a Hindu woman is raped, then what should she do? She should keep quiet. If her husband comes to know, he also should keep quiet. And can they work? Hindu women work? No, they should not work. Their job is to stay at home and serve husband. And this Hindu literature about Hindu women openly preaches sati, which is illegal, which is 8 years jail. Indian Criminal Procedure Code and Indian Penal Code, right? They openly preach sati. And the books have chapters like स्वतंत्रता के लिए स्त्रियों की अयोग्यता, incapability of women for independence, right? It is being circulated in thousands, and it is being sold from 80 railway stations of Indian railway system. They have been allotted shops without rent. This is happening in our India, democratic secular. But please also let in what Maulvis and Muftis prescribed way to Jannat for Muslim women. And I think, Zehra ji, you must look for this literature. Go to small Islamic bookshops and find plenty of them. If you do not find, I'll get you. I'll get you the PDFs. Hundreds of books. The worst is Beheshti Zewar. Beheshti Zewar is heavenly ornament. It is almost available in every language of the world. It was written, maaf kijiyega, it was written by a Muslim sadist. His name was Maulana Ashraf Thanvi. And you know, what does it say? And in India, in many of the marriages, Muslim marriages, this is part of the dowry. If this book is not given, then they will say that you have not given full dowry. That is, you have not given Islamic dowry without this book. What these such books are saying? Musalman Biwi by Mufti Abdul Ghani, Mia Biwi ke Haqooq, Maulvi Idris Ansari, Biwi ke Haqooq, Mufti Muhammad ताकि ये किताबें क्या क्या कह रही हैं? Women as property of men which can be used as they wish. They quote hadith, they quote hadith और कहते हैं कि वो तो उसकी प्रॉपर्टी है. उसके बाद to treat yourself, औरत को कह रहे हैं, they are telling Muslim women to treat yourself as slave and accept your husband as your master. Even if you are better, tolerate it patiently and graciously. These Islamists and Hinduites, they have learned these lessons from the same school, it seems. If husband orders that remove all stones from one mountain to second one, stones of the second mountain, the third one, wife must do it. And the sadism, the sexist sadism. If husband, I quote one of these muftis, if husband wants to have sex with his wife and if wife refuses and husband passes night in such a situation, then angels curse this lady throughout the night. They are sex maniacs. Follow all directs of husband. उसकी आंख के इशारे पर चला करो. If he orders that you must stand with hands folded throughout the night, you must do it so that get rewards in the next life. If your husband declares that day is night, you must say the same. This is about Muslim women written by Muslim ulama, Muslim alim. Mufti Abdul Ghani confides that in the hell a majority will comprise of women who disobeyed their husbands. According to his revelation, if a husband is angry with wife, her prayers are not honored by God and she is not admitted into paradise. And last one, madam, last one, there cannot be worse than this. Maulvi Idris, if your Mufti Abdul Ghani in his book even has a chapter titled Right to Better Women. बीवी को मारने का हक. I quote from the book. Husband has the authority to beat his wife. He may even use miswak. Even they are providing tool. Every Maulvi Sahib has a miswak. So you need not to go for something. Miswak is there with you. Husband has the authority to beat his wife. He may use even miswak to beat her. However, he should avoid hitting on face or causing deep scar. That's interesting. Should not face, because if she becomes ugly, then would be that hitter would not, that basher would not like to have. So what, Zehra ji, I'm trying to say, so far what I said, that nationalism is the dirty thing, and to make it dirtier, religious nationalism. And religious nationalism, they are very aggressive. They persecute minorities, those who are not like them. But they do not बख्शते हैं. वो अपने धर्मों की औरतों को भी और गरीब लोगों को नहीं बख्शते हैं. वो उनके साथ भी बहुत बुरा बर्ताव करते हैं, right? और उसके लिए I put solid case from the archives, Hindutva archives, Hindu nationalist archives in India, and so-called Muslim archives about Muslim women. Right. Please, your next issue.
Okay, thank you. Very enlightening answer. So the next question is about, you have also contributed to the theatres. Please enlighten us with the views on what role theatres play to encourage the culture of tolerance and pluralism in society.
For this, I think I would refer to a bit of Hindu nationalism, Hindutva, what is happening in India. Right? India, I told you that bulldozer has become BJP's electoral symbol is Kamal, a flower. But you know what they are using? They are using bulldozer. Now bulldozer, for minorities, Shamsul Islam commits a crime, but that crime is yet to be evaluated in the court of law. They will not wait for that. A bulldozer will go. His whole mohalla would be destroyed. Religious places would be destroyed. So bulldozer is the mantra of Hindutva rulers. And throughout the world, the issue is being raised that what is happening to minorities and Dalits. Dalit, those are Shudras, right? So, what we say, what we many times say that India has ceased to be a democracy and a secular state. An egalitarian state is turning into, unfortunately, sadly, uh, into a Hindu Pakistan. So that that India was not meant to be. India was not meant to be. And our Bishop John Joseph said, I'll repeat from that we must fight together. We should not think that simply by talking about this, this will go away. This Islamic nationalism or Hindu nationalism, states repression would go. He said, we close our eyes and think that the bloodthirsty cult of religious violence will go away by itself. No, each one of us has to get involved and play our role. Our answer to violence must be interdenominational and interreligious. And I had 2 minutes to conclude. One is, I would refer to Brecht, that Bertolt Brecht, that great writer, dramatist, poet, German poet who faced fascism, German Nazism. I'll quote him about what do we do against the fascism. Please listen this, Zehra ji. Nowadays, anyone who wishes to combat lies and ignorance and to write the truth must overcome at least 5 difficulties. Zehra ji, we practice it every day. I practice it every day in India. Those of you who are fighting against religious persecution, they also must follow. You must write these words of Brecht in your room, at your writing place. Nowadays, anyone who wishes to combat lies and ignorance and to write the truth must overcome at least 5 difficulties. Number 1, he must have the courage to write the truth when truth is everywhere opposed. Number 2, the keenness to recognize it, although it is everywhere concealed. Third, the skill to manipulate it as a weapon. Fourth, the judgment to select those in whose hands it will be effective. And lastly, running to spread the truth among such persons. I don't think there can be a better formula in reaching to people, conveying the message of democracy, equality, egalitarianism, better than prescribed by Brecht. And I'll end by reading few lines of a poem by one of the greatest fighters, a religious priest, Christian religious priest, Martin Niemöller. And every one of us must realize, I'll read 6 of his lines. There's a very lengthy poem. You know that he fought against Nazis, and most of his life was spent in jail, in Nazi jail. First, they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
Yes, I agreed. Thank you. So move to another question. It's a last question, and the question is, as scholars and activists in South Asia and around the world are endlessly trying to play their part in fighting the global rise in trend of majoritarianism and politics of hatred and division. However, things seems to worsen only. So, do you see any silver lining in this regards?
They are laying down their lives. They are fighting. They are in jails. Very, very close friends of mine, non-Muslims, are in jails under terror laws. 4 of my great, I used to worship them, adore them. They have been murdered by Hindutva criminals.
Okay.
Professor M.M. Kalburgi, Narendra Dabholkar, and that lady, our lady from Karnataka, Gauri Lankesh, a historian from Maharashtra, great historian. They have been shot dead 2 years, 3 years back, but nothing has happened. The criminals who have been caught, they are all connected to the ruling RSS and its organizations. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds are activists, most of them Dalits, Muslims, students, journalists, lawyers, they are in jails. So they are fighting. They are laying down their lives. They have sacrificed their liberties. That we will have to do. That we will have to do. और मैं ये कहता हूं ज़ेरा जी, जो फैशिज्म से लड़ते हुए मरा नहीं, वो लड़ा नहीं. शुक्रिया.
Thank you for sharing your views with us, and please accept our sincere appreciation for your outstanding response. Thank you for sharing your time and experience with us. We all agreed to your all answers. Thank you. Looking forward to have you in future also. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. Stay safe.
जी, सलाम, आदाब.